I am Zoe Delahunty-Light, and I am deep into Baldur's Gate 3 on the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck has the same controls, broadly speaking, as Baldur's Gate 3 on the PS5, so I've gathered all the tips pertinent to console and Steam Deck users, so you can all skip the bother I went through trying to get the game to run right. Before I start, you can find my other Baldur's Gate 3 tips videos on the Eurogamer channel. My 100+ hour playthrough tips is going to be the most advanced tips, straight into your veins, but beginners and advanced tips are still worth watching, though I would say that, wouldn't I, as I did write them. Hold the right trigger and move the thumbstick to select things in bulk, then press X or square to send those items to camp or add to wares. Bear in mind that on console and Steam Deck you can't see the carrying capacity scale that's on PC, which indicates how close you are to being over-encumbered. Instead, you'll kind of have to work it out yourself. Go to statistics from your inventory, then look at your carrying capacity. The final 25 kilograms at the top end of your carrying capacity is the amount at which you'll become over-encumbered. Unlike in a game like Skyrim, you become over-encumbered in Baldur's Gate 3 once you reach this final 25 kilograms of your total carrying capacity, not once you go over how much you can carry. So, if my carrying capacity is 170 kilograms, I become over-encumbered once I'm holding 145 kilograms worth of items, not 170.1 kilogram of items. At the lower end of over-encumbrance, you take a penalty to movement and jumping, and at the higher, scary red level, you get penalties to your stats. But you should have either sold stuff or sent stuff to your camp before you get to that stage. Hold A or X to search an area. This is easier than moving your character around and trying to highlight the correct items using their line of sight alone, as it brings up a menu of nearby items which you can loot or pick up. Press X on Steam Deck or Square on PS5 to open the context menu. However, you can't send items to camp via this method, only pick them up or pick them up and add to your wares. You will have to go into your inventory afterwards to send any objects you want to your camp. Playing Baldur's Gate 3 is more fiddly on Steam Deck and console. Without a mouse to hover over items and move the camera around, you're left to either rely on the left thumbstick trick or manually move your character around until they're facing in the right direction to highlight objects. To save some time, hold down the right thumbstick to show world information of everything currently on your screen. This will bring up sightlines, names of items, NPC names, and any status effects on the ground. Throughout your travels, you'll see gates and walls described as sturdy or being medium toughness. Sturdy means there's a damage threshold you need to pass to deal damage to the item in question. For sturdy, you have to deal more than 10 points of damage to even make a dent in it. Medium toughness means you need to deal at least 22 damage to affect the structure, and greater toughness means you need to deal at least 50 damage in one hit to make a dent. Baldur's Gate 3 never tells you any of this stuff, so you're welcome. Gates are weak against acid and bludgeoning damage, from a maul for example, and walls are weak against bludgeoning damage. All of those will deal twice as much damage as usual. Basically, just make sure someone is always carrying a warhammer or maul. Right bumper will bring up your movement abilities, spells, arrows, weapon proficiency attacks, potions, elixirs, poisons and scrolls. That's a lot, so for God's sake organise your radial menus. I recommend one for movement, one for attacks, a couple for spells depending on your class, and then however many you need for scrolls, arrows, poisons, and potions. Swapping slots between radial menus is the easiest way to move things around, but you'll need to manually add things if you find a new potion or arrow or what have you. Also, to avoid the radial menus altogether, tapping up on the D-pad is a shortcut to jump. Hold up to toggle your light source, which is especially useful in the Underdark. Just make sure you have a torch equipped in your offhand. When you level up, the game has a tendency to add new radials with your new abilities, so you'll need to organise your radials every time you level up. We console/Steam Deck players don't have the toolbar PC players have, so we just have to make do. Also, organise your inventory by using bags and pouches for groups of items. Inspect, inspect, inspect. Pressing down on the D-pad while highlighting an enemy or NPC will bring up a menu of their statistics, and all that information is worth its weight in gold. You can see what elements they're resistant and vulnerable to, any auras they currently have, as well as their stats, which is crucial when deciding what saving throws you want to subject them to if you're a caster. This inspect menu is also applicable to objects in the wild. Inspect them by pressing down on the D-pad to see how heavy each object is and how much it's worth. This can be done from the context menu as well. Doing so will let you determine whether they're valuable and how heavy they are, and, balancing these two factors, whether they're worth picking up. Left and right on the D-pad moves between objects or targets, so you don't even have to move your character around. Hold down on the D-pad to hide your whole party, and because if you're hiding you'll probably want to send a scout ahead, it's Y/triangle to separate members of the party from each other, and then X/square to join groups back up. When sneaking, you might want to use Misty Step or Jump to get your scout into the prime position for an oncoming fight. So, heed my warning. Make sure you pan back to your character to see if they need to use any movement to get to your desired location. This is important because sometimes if you select a space without checking what movement is required, your character can stumble into sightlines before jumping or misty stepping away, prematurely starting the fight. Triggering combat usually still permits you to complete your movement and gives you a surprise round, but then you'll be left without a bonus or main action on your first turn, depending on what you're using to cast a jump or misty step. Hold down the left thumbstick to bring up a cursor, allowing you to freely move around the space without moving your party. This is fantastic for scoping out areas, but there is a limit on how far the cursor can go, though it is fairly generous. The cursor can also go through walls. If you haven't opened the door into said area, it will be pitch black, however. But objects will still be highlighted, so if you're patient enough to fumble around in the dark, you can plan attacks before even opening said door. Press X or square to bring up the context menu. You won't be prompted to lockpick doors or chests or move crates, so this context menu is used to access those options. Bear in mind that if the option you want to do, like lockpicking, is in red, it's illegal and people will either start a fight with you or the attitude towards you will decrease if they see you doing something that's in red. If you do get in a fight with people and you don't want to kill them, you can toggle on and off non-lethal damage, which means that when they get to 0 hit points, they will be knocked out and you can run away and just hope they're not mad at you when you see them the next time. Steam Deck players, listen up. Baldur's Gate 3, somehow, runs better on Steam Deck at high quality rather than low quality in the first 2 acts. That doesn't mean everything should be at ultra, but toy with the settings and find the right balance of mid to high graphics. I found this made the game run way better than having everything at low quality, which was a surprise. However, once you get into the 3rd act, everything will need to be low again, as the amount of people in the locations you're going to be visiting makes the game chug. Also, run Baldur's Gate 3 in full screen, not borderless windowed, as that is the default, and it's worse. Bring up your menu by pressing the right trigger, then hit Y to quick save. It's the right trigger and then holding X to quick load. Going to pair this with a similar system tip, make sure to shut down, then power your Steam Deck back up to force sync cloud saves. There you go. Those are the tips you need if you're going to dive into Baldur's Gate 3 on PS5 or Steam Deck. Do you have any other intricate tips for Baldur's Gate 3? I'd love to hear any and all of them in the comments, or you can tag me directly on Twitter at Zoe_Delahunty-Light. I've also got videos on the Eurogamer channel about multi-classing for both beginners and advanced practitioners, and more general tips and multi-classing videos. If you've made it this far, thanks so much for watching, and make sure you subscribe to Eurogamer and like this video for more videos from yours truly, as we have a new video out almost every single day. Now, I'm gonna go and reorganize my radials because I leveled up and now everything is out of place, so I'll see you good folk next time.